How's it going, guys, and welcome to the showdown between the Vampire Counts led by the Red Duke and the Lizard People, who are going to be led by Croc-R. So guys, let's jump right into this match and take a look at some of these builds. So on the front line, I do have a very heavy core of zombies. And for the longest time, I actually used zombies as a bit of a meme. I would be using like Helman Gorst or Heinrich Kemmler, just having a bit of fun with thematics and having a huge zombie horde. But after I used them enough times against the Lizardmen, even in builds where I was kind of messing around, I found them to be actually pretty effective at mucking up the front line of the Lizards. So I do have, I think in total, 4 groups here, with one of them being the Tithe on the far side. So the Tithe actually has 7, let's see what their stats are. So 7 melee attack, 11, and 18 weapon strength compared to the 5, 6, and 18. So a little bit better. They also do have physical resist. It's just kind of a fun thing. You could probably get away with just bringing regular zombies, and you would never really notice a difference. But regardless, I also like to use them quite a bit to fend off skinks. So if the Lizardman player does have some chameleons out on the far side, just kind of trolling you and shooting up at your dragons and, you know, your Mortis engine, you can, well, they're technically, I don't know, giant mutated bats, but whatever. You guys get the point. You just use the Tithe and these other troops to kind of screen them out. And honestly, if you just put a group of zombies on enemy skirmishers that are on foot, they're not going to be able to do anything to really, you know, horse cav or things like that, or horse skirmishers, but you can just kind of fend them off and chase them down. They'll be wasting a ton of ammunition on your zombies, and you definitely get some pretty good value. But aside from that, I'm just going to use them in the front line to take the initial shock from the very hard-hitting Saurus warriors and big dinosaurs, and hopefully they'll do the trick. In the secondary line, I do have a couple of groups of skeleton spears. And I do like them quite a bit as like a chaff unit in this matchup. They do have an anti-large bonus, pretty decent, you know, combat stats with, well, I mean, their melee attack's low, but their melee defense is decent. With their bonus versus large, they can make some pretty decent contact on the big dinos, and they're not going to be cutting them down quickly, but, you know, at least they can make contact with the dinos and kind of work them down over the course of a long battle. They do have charge defense as well, so you can get some pretty good value out of these guys. So 3 of those, I do have the Claw of Nagash here in the back, which is very good. If the dinos like Croc-R, you know, Stegodons, or pretty much anything else is trying to catch the Claw of Nagash, it's going to slow them down and make them much, much easier targets for your big, you know, Red Duke and Terrorgeist up in the sky. On top of that, I do have 2 groups of Graveguard, and you don't really need the great weapons on these guys. And, you know, in my opinion, I think that these guys with their anti-infantry bonus and their melee defense is a little bit higher than the great weapon variant. So you can put them on the Saurus warriors, and they trade very effectively, because Saurus warriors do struggle to get through their 90 armor. Also, you know, with the Mortis engine healing them, they can be very, very durable. And that's pretty much it for my army, guys. So a very tight army, very heavily centered around the Terrorgeist and the Red Duke. And honestly, I feel like this could be a pretty competitive build. The zombies is something you might be able to like change out and kind of work with. But aside from that, I feel like it's going to be pretty good against the dinos. My opponent, it looks like he does have 2 groups of Skink Chiefs here, well, just, I guess, 2 models of Skink Chiefs, and they're definitely very annoying. They have 100 ammunition. They can just sit and, you know, outrun your Terrorgeist and just shoot you with the little poison darts all day, and it looks like that's what my opponent's going to be trying to do here. I do have my Terrorgeist flying up here, and there was something I wanted to show you guys before we get really into analyzing the rest of his army. So I decided to try out the Death Shriek from the Terrorgeist. I'd never really used it on a, you know, Skink Chief before, but I actually cast it right here, and check out the damage it does. So he probably wasn't expecting this, but look at that damage. I feel like that was some really good value. I mean, it took him down, you know, 25%, and that's like a, you know, a fairly low cooldown. I still have 2 more charges, and that's a great catch right out of the gates. The rest of his army is a bunch of Saurus warriors. It looks like he does have the shields for the melee defense. Temple Guard in the middle. He does have some skinks. Probably just, you know, didn't have enough money for another Saurus. But Temple Guards are pretty strong. So if Croc-R is being beaten on by, you know, these Terrorgeists and the Red Duke, you just stand him up on top of the Temple Guard, and it becomes exponentially harder for the Vampire Counts player to deal with that. So he has Croc-R, Ancient Stegodon. He does also have a Revivification Crystal over here, and a whole front line of Saurus and Temple Guard. So guys, without further ado, let's get the show on the road. So right now, after that nice little initial engagement, I was able to get those 2 breath attacks. He is going to be darting me here. You can see I obviously can't catch him. So every chance I get, I'm just going to either be using my breath attacks or just trying to screen them out so they can't just like free fire on the Red Duke. That was the thing I really didn't want. The Red Duke is probably my most high value target, and let's see what the HP difference. So 5.7 on the Terrorgeist to, wow, I guess the Red Duke might have a little less HP than the Terrorgeist, which is interesting. But I'm taking some of that Javelin Fire from the Skink cohorts on the ground, and it looks like the zombie hordes and the Mortis engine and everything else is about to be advancing here. So I believe I am going to be using a zombie breath attack here on these Temple Guard, and it looks like it's going to do a little bit of damage. I probably should have waited till they're engaged in melee, but I got a little impatient and wanted to, you know, put my micro elsewhere. So Croc-R is going to get in here and start feasting on some zombies, and that's great. I mean, that's his charge bonus out of the way for the most part, and hopefully I can then like tie him up with some other troops and just, you know, muck him up a little bit. In the front, the zombies are going to be colliding with the Saurus warriors. Obviously, they're going to get massacred pretty badly, but the Mortis engine is the real breadwinner here. He's basically just here to kind of drain and just like drag all these Saurus warriors down while all my, you know, fodder units just kind of hold them in place. In the meantime, I am going to be using the Red Duke to go after Croc-R. I do have the support of some Skeleton Spears and also some Graveguard right here, so I definitely felt like this was a pretty good engagement. I do also have another Terrorgeist right here, so I'm getting a ton of, you know, pretty good damage here. And in the meantime, I'm going to send that Claw of Nagash up into the front line, summon some zombies behind his front line. So you can see the zombies have summoned behind these Temple Guard here, and they'll definitely do a pretty good job like making them route that much quicker. Temple Guard do have very good leadership, but as soon as something hits the rear of a unit, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like a -14 leadership penalty. So it's always a good idea to do that. It will definitely help you kind of speed the battle along and, you know, get them to that terror routing that much quicker from the Claw of Nagash. So in the meantime, Krokar is taking quite a beating. I did use El Sif, which is one of the reasons why the Red Duke is probably the most competitive pick in this matchup. Negative 48 speed, 48%, negative 22% physical resist, and it lowers his melee defense, which really helps the Terror guys. Because if you look at Terror guys, they have really low melee attack. It's only 28, so you really need that kind of you know, mitigation on his defensive stats. So Krokar is taking a bit of damage here. And Terror guys do have him pinned, but I'm taking that Perpetual Fire from the Skink Chiefs. But I feel like in this battle, I've gotten really good burst damage on Krokar, so I'm not terribly concerned about the long, atrocious style of play with those Skink Chiefs. If I were my opponent, I'd probably be targeting maybe the Claw of Nagash. I think that might be a pretty decent little choice to work that thing down. It would really allow his infantry to shine. Whereas right now, I mean, look at these Temple Guard. They're just fighting these zombies right now who have 69 models. They are crumbling, but the Temple Guard have lost a lot simply because of that Mortis engine just kind of draining them and just attacking them. So definitely some good stuff. On the far side, you can see how well the Graveguard do indeed perform against the Saurus Warriors. They're doing really, really good. I mean, they're rocking 80 models to the 61 of the Saurus Warriors and are in very good health. So in the center battle, you can see Krokar has gotten away. He's been running for my Terror guys, which is definitely a good idea. My opponent could switch the Skink Chiefs to now shoot on my Terror guys, which would poison them and definitely help protect Krokar, because if Krokar is able to get away and heal up, it's definitely going to be a little bit harder for me to pull this game out. So the bounce power is a little bit in my favor right now with Krokar taking such bad beating, and now I can get my Terror guys and the Red Duke. We're just doing heavy lifting. You can see the Red Duke in here is just going after all these big armored targets and doing a lot of damage to good old Gary right here, who's, you know, he's charging through the skeletons, having a good time, but, you know, he's probably going to have to run here in just a moment. So my opponent does pop a Cold Blood, and it looks like Krokar in the back is also going to be getting a Cold Blood charge. So he does have 3 in total. So it looks like there's going to be 2 of them used right there. And I'm just actually, you know, trying my best to chase down Krokar. So instead of wasting all the time kind of chasing him with both of those guys and really kind of like missing, I figured I would grab one, attack that guy for a second, see if I could like terror out him real quick. But unfortunately I wasn't. And Krokar did run into a bit of a trap with the Red Duke and these 2 Terror guys. So I was really able to get my paws on him here. In the meantime, the Claw of Nagash, it looks like it has chased off this Bastillodon, and I think Krokar was going to go for it right now with his Temple Guard, and he does get a decent little attack right there with Krokar, and the Temple Guard might be able to get us around, but, you know, the Claw of Nagash with that slow and just all of its maneuverability with, the, you know, slowing the enemy units is so hard to get. You can see it does have 48 movement speed, which isn't bad. Another Terrorgeist is going to be coming in here, and is Krokar immune to Psychology? I can't recall if he is. I think he does have the Frenzy mechanic, so while that's active he might be, but I don't think he is otherwise. But you know what? Actually, we need to check that because I don't want to be wrong. So we're gonna go ahead and look at Krokar real quick. So Krokar, oh yeah, of course. So he does cause terror. So units that cause fear and terror are immune to those respective categories, if I'm not mistaken. So he's obviously not going to be able to be terror routed here. So. In the mainline fight, you can see the Sternsmen. Look at the Sternsmen. They are at 90 models. They've literally been fighting Temple Guard, but that's kind of the strength of zombies, right? So the zombies in the front line have been stacked on top of these guys and just taken a beating. And as a result, the Sternsmen have taken almost no damage. They've been fighting for the majority of this battle. Probably don't have the most kills, but still, they've done some pretty decent HP damage. And the zombies are really, really paying for themselves. They're just kind of mucking these guys up. I mean, the Saurus Warriors are still dealing with zombies in the front, which is great. In the meantime, you can see there's a bit of a battle going down over here. The Red Duke is going after this Ancient Stegodon, and the Terrorgeist squad is with him as well. And my opponent has stood on top of some Saurus Warriors, but those aren't Temple Guards, so they're really not going to be terribly effective against, you know, Terrorgeist and the Red Duke. We are able to take down this Ancient Stegodon. You can see it's getting dragged into the mud by these big vampiric beasts. And let's see how much HP. Yeah, it's rocking 300 HP. The Mortis Engine is nearby as well, which is going to be draining and terror routing all of these Lizardmen troops. The Temple Guard are still steady, obviously a very elite troop, and they have racked up 102 kills, but mostly against like skeletons and zombies. And it looks like the Ancient Stegodon is going to be dragged down. So Krokar, I think, ran off into the forest somewhere. It looks like over here his Bastillodon. I was trying to chase that off the battlefield with some skeletons, but again, it's much faster than me, so it's probably going to be able to rally there. And Krokar is lurking in the back. You can see he does have 940 HP. He's shaken. He has popped the Swiftness of Itzel, which just makes him an absolute track star, putting up to 102 speed. And I do have the Red Duke chasing him. I figured, you know, I had the battle won elsewhere with my Mortis Engine and my Terror guys who are now up in the air, kind of fending off these not Chameleon. Wouldn't it suck if like Chameleon Skinks could like be like a Chameleon Skink Chief? Just imagine that. And it also gets 40% missile resist. That would be like the trollest unit in the planet. So Krokar is going to be lurking over there, kind of sitting on the periphery of the battle, not wanting to fight. But again, the Mortis Engine is just the perpetual draining, and also summoning more zombies here is definitely going to spell some bad news for the remaining Saurus Warriors here. And the Red Duke's going to be coming in just on his giant dragon. And does his dragon actually look different than the other zombie dragons? I don't know. But he's a very cool looking unit regardless. But the Red Duke's going to get in here and definitely toss a salad of some of these guys, and is you know, having a good time doing it. So I am chasing them off with the Terror guys here. I do have those breath attacks that I'm going to be trying to get on them in just a moment. The Claw of Nagash is a little bit low at about 1600 HP, taking a little bit of damage from these Temple Guard, but it is draining them. You can see it has routed off one group of Saurus Warriors over here. And Krokar's just trying to heal. He ran over to Gary to get the Revivification Crystal and heal up a little bit. But I most certainly think that's going to be too little too late. So very well played by my opponent. I definitely think that this style of play from the Vampire Counts, like using 2 Terrorgeist and a big, you could use Manfred if you want to use like Fade Abune on the Temple Guard. The Red Duke's obviously very good against the big dinos because of Elsif. But I honestly think that there's a multitude of different combinations on the ground you can go with like infantry, but I really feel like the Red Duke plus like 2 Terrorgeist is just like the optimal way to go. I don't think, as funny as it is to like beat the Lizardmen with Helm and Gorst and Heinrich Kemmler and these other lords, I think this is by far the most competitive composition. It's just too strong to pass up. You can get massive nuking damage on those guys, and it's pretty powerful for sure. So for my opponent's build, he was going, so I've seen quite a few Lizardmen players do this. They actually, instead of getting a caster, they'll opt to get double Skink Chiefs. So then you can get that really annoying peppering fire throughout the course of the whole game. I personally still think that Magic is a little bit of a better choice, but I've seen a lot of people, like high-level players, do this. They actually get the double Skink Chief, and they just kind of dart you the whole game, and it can be really annoying in a very close, long game. But thankfully, I was able to get some really good focus fire on Croc R and take him out relatively early, which made the rest of the army pretty easy to drag down with the Mortis Engine, the Claw of Nagash, and all that kind of stuff. So very well played to my opponent, Lightning Strikes. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Vampire Count showcase. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.